And hey, I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen. I am the editor and VP of Streaming Media Magazine and streamingmedia.com. And welcome to day 3 of Streaming Media East Connect 2021. This is our 4th virtual conference. It won't be our last. I don't think anybody's done with virtual conferences yet. But we will be coming back in the flesh, in person, in Huntington Beach in November for Streaming Media West. That is me knocking on wood right there. That's the first week of November. So if you're interested in speaking at or sponsoring Streaming Media West, you can check out the link that Steve Nathan-Scaley just put in the chat and find out more information. As always, this and all of our Streaming Media Connect sessions will be available for on-demand viewing on YouTube within about a day or two after they stream live. So you can look for it there. If you don't remember the YouTube link, which Steve is also putting in chat, you can go to streamingmedia.com. There is a cleverly titled link called videos where you can find the same. So everything's going to be available there very soon. A couple of housekeeping notes. We will have the chat open, but please put your questions for the panelists in the Q&A tab, and our moderator, Chris Pfaff, will be monitoring the Q&A tab and will pose those questions as we go along or toward the end of the panel discussion, depending on what works best with the discussion. I'd like to thank our diamond sponsor for Streaming Media East Connect, Signient, and we've got a brief video message from them now.
When the director calls action.
And action.
When the game is on. Or it's time to save the universe again. Media Shuttle is there. Trusted by more than 25,000 media companies, Media Shuttle delivers, making it easy and secure to send any size file anywhere fast. The journey begins with Media Shuttle portals, customized and branded for any project and designed to be so easy, your end users will love it. All while giving operations teams complete control through a simple yet powerful admin interface. Add users, set permissions, customize file delivery specs, and report on all activity. Blast off with proprietary acceleration technology. Media Shuttle moves your content anywhere in the internet-connected world at hyper speeds. Along the way, your files are protected. Our commitment to enterprise-grade security has made Media Shuttle a preferred tool with Hollywood studios, major sports leagues, broadcasters, and more. With Media Shuttle, your files are never handed over to Signient. File movement is orchestrated between the end user's workstation and your storage, whether on-prem or in the cloud. Your IT team simply provisions your storage, connecting it to the Media Shuttle cloud service, and Signient handles the rest. Get started on your Media Shuttle journey today, a journey without limits.
And I would also like to thank the sponsor of this panel, Amagi, and Srini from Amagi will be joining the panel discussion in just a moment. And we are going to be talking about ad-supported streaming. Is ad-supported streaming taking over? Well, it sure seems like it. And I'd like to welcome the moderator, the indefatigable Chris Pfaff. Chris, take it away.
Well, thank you, Eric. Thank you to everyone for putting together another great Streaming Media East. This is Streaming Media East Connect 2021. For those who are checking their scorecard, just thrilled to be here. We have a full hour, and we're very grateful for that because we have a tremendous lineup of speakers here. Just quick introductions. With us today are the one and only Damian Pelliccione. He's the co-founder and CEO of Revry. Damian, who joins us from LA, is actually on set. So Damian, good to see you. And by the way, he's my biggest fan. There's that fan. There we go. Well done. Well done. Good to see you again, Damian. We also have with us Chris Yates, who is the GM of On Demand for Redbox. Chris also joins us from LA, actually Venice, California. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, great. We also have Nick Colsey. He's the VP of Business Development, no stranger to streaming media. He joins us from Del Mar. He wins most fabulous location, Del Mar, California. Nick, welcome, sir. Good to have you.
Chris, great to be here.
And we also have Srinivasan. I'll call him Srini. He's Srini in your program. Srinivasan Khan. He is the co-founder of Amagi. As Eric mentioned, they're sponsoring the session. We're very grateful. Welcome, Srini. And for those who don't know, Srini joins us from Bangalore. So this is after midnight for him. So this is sort of streaming at midnight. We're going to create a new series with Srini. So welcome, Srini.
Thank you. Again, very much look forward to the big session of streaming midnight soon enough.
Exactly. Well, it's all because of you, Srini. Thank you. Last but not least, we have Philippe Guelton. He is the Executive Vice President of Online Networks and the President of Crackle Plus at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. And he joins us from New York at a brand new office on 3rd Avenue and 50th. Welcome. Bienvenue, Philippe.
Merci, Chris.
Great to have all of you. So we're going to dive right in. As Eric mentioned, we're going to talk about ad-supported streaming, and the question that's posed is whether that is taking over. Let's really just start with something that I read recently. I think it was in Variety. Matt Creasy of Banijay was quoted. Actually, it was in the Hollywood Reporter. He said that niche and regional SVOD players, but never mind that. It's let's call them OTT players, such as Acorn, Viaplay, and TV Now from RTL, are, quote, more vital to us than Netflix, unquote. So my question for you, and we'll start with you, Damian. Do we feel that for AVOD players that niche content is going to be able to gain more loyal subscribers? And you would certainly seem to have succeeded in that. But why don't we start with you on that, Damian?
Yeah, first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's exciting to be on with such power players in the industry. Damian, my pronouns are they, them, theirs. I'm the CEO, one of 4 fabulous co-founders of Revry. You know, I actually don't, excuse me, I'm losing my voice because we are on set shooting our Variety Pride special right now, but I don't like using the word niche because LGBTQ for us is a segment. We're actually special interest or special focused. You know, last year in the census, 5.6% of the entire population of the US identified as LGBTQ. And just for context, that 5.6% make up $965 billion in disposable income per year, 5 trillion globally. So it's not a small market. This is a very massive market. So that's why I don't use the word niche. You know, we far exceeded some other minority groups, especially in our space. Look, I think the biggest thing is when you have authenticity, and it starts from the leadership and the ownership, and in which case Revry is co-founded by myself, Aaliyah, Jay Daniels, LaShawn McGee, Chris Rodriguez, and you know, myself. We represent women, African-American, Latinx, veteran. I'm an immigrant from Canada. I always say, I don't know if that counts for anything. And I do identify as non-binary as well as LGBTQ communities. And I think that to us has been our tremendous success and why if you have an authentic voice in streaming, be it SVOD or AVOD, and in our case, we're a tribrid of fast AVOD and SVOD. You can take that phrase away from me if you like. And that has really been our market position and why we are the leader in this segment and the only one in this segment. But I think when you look at other niche players, it's about, you know, what is the content, who's leading that content, and who is bringing that charge to the masses, because the consumer will respond. They respond to that in droves, and they're hungry and massively underserved. And I think that's been our biggest opportunity with Revry.
Yeah, Chris Yates, with Redbox, I mean, you guys are you know, gaining, and by the way, congratulations, you're going public via SPAC, so that would suggest that your growth is quite substantial. What are you seeing in terms of AVOD for you know, sorry, Damian, but we will call niche audiences, meaning ones that aren't necessarily served by larger SVOD players? What do you think, Chris?
You know, it's a good question. You know, for our business, we have over about 40 million people in the US who use Redbox every year, and we're certainly not, you know, in the niche segment as a general rule. We're in front of every single Walmart on the physical side, and our customers are very value oriented. So when we think about our business on the ad-supported side, we try and appeal, frankly, to a broad set of tastes. That can include niche or to Damian's point, different segments of the audience, and we're trying to find essentially a broad offering of both content and services that frankly our customers love. And from an ad-supported standpoint, it's a great compliment to us because our customers, they want something that's free with ads to complement the other services they already use. And it's not necessarily an either-or proposition. In fact, people will consume lots of different content, lots of different ways. Many still subscribe to cable, but those that don't, and including those that still do, they have subscription services and ad-supported, and it all goes into a big melting pot of essentially how they consume their content.
Right, exactly. Now, Srini, one of the things that I find very interesting about what you're doing is supporting, let's say, very loyal, passionate viewers and spinning up AVOD channels with them. What are you seeing in that regard? It would seem to be that people are finding a lot of comfort in producing that content with a fast model.
Absolutely, Chris. Today, Amagi delivers almost 40 to 45% of all content that is delivered on fast platforms across the US, right? So we do see, a variety of content, whether it's, large mass sports to, general entertainment to special interest content that is specific to Damian's point, right? That's specific to, that is of deep interest for specific audiences. And what we have seen is, unlike the traditional cable world, the whole fast pace actually democratized distribution of content. That means that you don't need to be limited by a 200 or a 300 set of channels. That's going to reach most of the audience. Now you can actually, as a deep fan, somebody who's interested in a specific segment, you can actually go find what is of interest for you, rather than being limited by what's available or what's liked by the majority of the audience.
Right, and for your team, I think it gives you a lot of I think freedom in terms of super serving with your clients, super serving those viewers, those customers who might want different features. It really gets into an enormous level of customer success and satisfaction. Nick, you're in an interesting position because, of course, with respect to AVOD, I mean, you kind of have the Trojan horse there with the great Bravia, franchise. But of course, you've got a lot of great TV apps that you support. What do you see in terms of those, those very passionate, loyal, if not smaller, possibly even underserved segments from the Sony perspective?
Yeah, so this is really how the smart TV got off the ground, was being able to offer consumers something that wasn't on cable. The 500 channel universe was great when smart TVs first started in 2007. The first smart TV from Sony was back in 2007. And if you think back to that time, this is before Netflix was streaming, before HBO and the SVOD players that we think about today. And the whole reason we thought streaming was a part of people's consumption of TV content was to be able to offer content that is not on cable. And one of those first partners actually was the company that is now called Crackle. So
that's right.
That's stretching right the way back to there. So it was it was really our goal to not to kill cable or anything like that. I mean, that sort of happened by itself, but it was to offer alternatives and offer content that you had to pull out your laptop to watch. Why not put that onto the TV?
Yeah, it's absolutely right, and that leads me. It's a great segue. Speaking of Crackle and Sony, Philippe, you're in an interesting position, of course, because this is upfront week. But you just came through the new fronts, and it'd be interesting to get your view on where you see serving sort of these passionate audiences from the Crackle point of view.
Sure. So everything you guys said, I totally endorse. I think that, sorry, For us, growth comes from aggregating niche to scale, and I think that's been true for a lot of media industries in history, and that's been pretty much what I've done over the years in different media categories, and we're no different, right? As Crackle Plus, we have 3 platforms. We have Crackle, which is really more of a general interest, but increasingly through our channels and our trays, we're trying to create these niche audiences and super serve them so they can actually find content they can't find, in other places. We've got Popcorn Flicks, which actually remains this more like younger kid, who's like gamer who wants action movies and horror movies and everything that actually streaming started with. And then we just announced the launch of Chicken Soup for the Soul, streaming platform, which is targeting women, obviously, and providing everything that the brand stands for, which is changing the world one story at a time. And one story at a time for us means talking about real people, real daily, everyday heroes and things that people are very passionate about. So what we are focusing on right now is content. Obviously, it's all about content and finding these content partners who are willing to work with us to provide this depth of content in certain key verticals. So we're not Netflix, we're not going to spend tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in producing original and scripted shows. However, we are creating a lot of scripted, unscripted originals because they're more affordable, also because they can serve certain areas of the market that are not well served. And we've also announced, I think, over 30 new touch points that we're going to be reaching in main part thanks to Srini and Amagi, because we are now finally in the linear business. We've been in as video and demand platform for many years, but I think fast platforms and TV OEMs offer a huge opportunity for these I would say more smaller, I don't like to say smaller, but mid-sized content owners and producers, and reaching an audience that we could never reach before through cable or broadcast. So I think it's very,
you just didn't have the CPMs wouldn't have worked out there. But now getting back to super serving, but it's also super sizing to some extent, because one of the things that I find very interesting is that we're seeing more competition with FAST. Samsung TV Plus, Roku Channel, Vizio, Pluto, Plexster, Zumo, Redbox, and many others. And of course, one of the ones that I've been following, because I've known Tom Ryan for a million years, is Pluto TV, which is now, taking over Europe. But does this all suggest that superior experiences plus free equals a winning strategy against major SVOD services? I mean, what do you think, Chris Yates?
Oh, wow. That's the answer is yes. I don't know if that's the end
Good
of the
answer.
story.
Yeah, but tell me more. Yeah.
It's, the customer experience is definitely important. Finding ways for customers to easily find your service and frankly fall in love with it is really, really important. Content is at the center of all of that, frankly, because at the end of the day, the content that you have is the only way that you'll ultimately sustain a good audience. Having said that, the other areas of it that are frankly in some ways are just as important are, how do you tell your customers, or how do you find customers? I mean, it's a lot harder to find customers than it used to be. And, you're constantly looking at new ways to attract customers. And then the last part is, and cannot be forgotten, and this is why Nick is such an important person in the room, is distribution. It used to be that the gatekeepers were MVPDs. Now, the gatekeepers, the most important people in the room, it's the equipment manufacturers, the OEMs. And so we spend a lot of time there.
Who would have thought? Duh, right? Which quick side note to Damian. Damian, you're on Samsung TV Plus in the UK, right? I mean, that's a very, very cool deal. And I would think, and sorry, Nick, we're talking Samsung for just a second. And by the way, full disclosure, I have a Samsung Curve, so I have a lot of Sony gear. But Damian, that would seem to be like a real breakthrough in terms of that kind of TVOD, or however we want to call it, distribution, right?
Well, it's all fast. It's all fast. And
Yeah.
we're not just in USA and UK. We launched Mexico quietly in March, and we're launching 3 more territories over the next couple of months.
But
So
that,
we'll
but
be
that's
on
a
almost
fantastic.
6 territories
yeah,
with Samsung TV
that's
Plus.
fantastic.
They're our biggest actually output right now. And Revry's global. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. We've been downloaded in about 130 countries with our direct consumer apps, which are powered by Brightcove Beacon, which we also helped to design. We actually were part of that entire process, giving that tribrid approach. But those fast channels that you see in our live EPG and our DTC apps, we syndicate now to almost 50 touch
This
points,
is exactly
fast channel touch
right.
points.
So
outside of just the people here and other territories. And I will tell you, whenever we have announcements, like we just announced the UK on May 12th, I'm inbounded. My LinkedIn is like backed up by 1,000 messages. And all of a sudden we have, one from South Africa and one from Vietnam and another one from India. And they all want, Revry on all their services. So I'm kind of like the Oprah of, you get a fast channel and you get a fast channel and an HLS and an HLS. And, we're, our play out, no offense to Amagi, it's great. We work with Whirl, but predominantly frequency is our play out system that we use. We are one of the beta users there. And we use that for our robust kind of scheduling tool to play out and see the environments that they are a preferred vendor. And if not, it's Whirl. But you can make me a bid if you want. And we're doing business while we're having this panel. Why not, right? But I think the biggest thing is fast is only getting bigger. It's getting more competitive. To this point, even being the only LGBTQ fast channel network, we are now competing against majors who are stepping into this space and creating fast channel environments. And even though we own the LGBTQ market, because we are the only one in the segment leader, we're starting to change the way that we market and spend those dollars by buying hero units, by buying inventory back and getting ourselves featured outside of the editorial moments like Pride season, which we're in right now and stepping into with June, because we need to be able to stay relevant and compete and push our content to the top. But for the SVOD conversation that you had, Chris, look, SVOD, we're never going to compete with Disney Plus and Amazon and Hulu. Those guys have a totally different type of marketplace than we do. And just from a social impact standpoint, we believe that our content should be free and accessible to the greater good for our community and our allies. Everyone here, I'm assuming, is an ally on this panel, because the more representation we bring to the masses through our content curation and our scheduling of our fast channels, the more change we have in the world. And if I can, and I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I want to answer one quick little story for you. I had the pleasure of actually being in Mumbai in 2019, and I was the featured speaker at Kashish, the LGBTQ festival in Mumbai. And, and I'm sure, Shriyar can say this, but, for context, they had their Stonewall moment only in 2018 where they decriminalized LGBTQ people. And they move very fast socially. I have so many friends now in India, but we had this one title from this filmmaker who actually shot in Bangalore. The story is about a lesbian couple in Bangalore. And it had this huge mass appeal. Like in 2017, we had all this traffic and we can only equate it to this one title. And all these queer women came up to me after the opening ceremony to talk to me. And one of them shows me their Tinder. And I'm like, why are you showing me your Tinder? It's the only social app that they use for lesbian. And all of the images on the grid were images from the other love story. It's how they identify in that territory for fear of discretion, for losing their family or their jobs. And what that meant, and the fact that we were able to provide that free platform, that accessibility, even in India, where I'm not spending any marketing dollars and I don't speak the language. I mean, everyone speaks English, but like don't speak all the dialects in the language of Hindi. There's impact that we have, just from a social standpoint.
But you're also riding a very interesting curve in India, because of course, 3G was enough of a bear, and now 4G is finally coming to India, and Srini can talk more about that in a second. But Nick, I want to stay on this point with respect to how you really become a much bigger potential player in terms of distribution. I would think, what plans do you have in without giving anything away, but, what does it look like, let's say 2020 to 2021, I would guess that the pandemic has actually been kind of good for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. People staying at home more, results in them looking at the TV and thinking, maybe it's time I got a bigger one or a better one or both. So yeah, I think it's generally been pretty good for TVs, and certainly media consumption has dramatically increased, and that that benefits all types of media on the TV. But yeah, definitely FAST is continuing to grow dramatically. I think we had our first live linear FAST type of service with Pluto back in 2015, one of the first apps on Android TV. And now I think we have pretty much all of them. We feature Zumo quite prominently. Both Pluto and Zumo have done a deep integration on the TV, not just as an app, but also as channels in the EPG, alongside your cable or over-the-air channels. You can also see the channels from Pluto and Zumo and others as well. So we haven't we certainly didn't set out to be the arbiter and the last 10 feet of access to the consumer, to the TV viewer, but that's where we are. And our strategy there, I think, is to be Switzerland. We're very open. We don't have our own FAST service that that we sort of present in front of our third-party partners. We're not in that business, so we just give prominence to to certain FAST services that that we partnered with and that want to be deeply integrated into our TVs. And
but do you think you're seeing more interest these days just because of the general move toward AVOD? Is that possible? Yes, clearly we're still at a fairly early stage in the evolution of FAST. So, 4 or 5 years in, it's still very early days, I think. And, a lot is going to happen. The number of channels is continuing to increase. Channels that, you might have never thought would be FAST channels, brands that are recognized for their premium positioning. Are also putting kind of samplers into. I was just going to get to that, and Srini, it's an interesting thing because I think you probably have quite a bit of data on where FAST is going, particularly in the U.S. I mean, do you think that this pandemic period has is it just a perfect storm, or do we think that people are really looking to kind of address audiences without charging them and possibly adding to their budget or decreasing their budget?
Totally, Chris. I mean, certainly the pandemic has accelerated the entire AVOD FAST trend. I mean, I think I was reading a recent report from Omdia, talks about 200 million viewers today in the US domestic for AVOD on a monthly basis, right? So it's dramatically grown in terms of just viewership across the board, and it's kind of a flywheel approach, right? You see that there is a lot more content coming in, a lot more connected TVs being sold, and hence a lot more advertising dollars following that, and hence that's kind of bringing in more investment into content. As Nick was talking about earlier, it was about getting content that was not available on cable TV through FAST. Now it's actually mainstream content coming in, right? People that are actually some of the biggest networks, cable networks, are coming in, jumping into the FAST bandwagon, building specific either single IP channels focusing on specific shows or a larger portfolio based on specific subgenres, right? That's happening in a big way. Platforms are starting to build a lot more, again, to Philippe's point, right? A lot more original programming content as well. So again, huge transformation happening. I mean, we saw just as a company ourselves, almost, viewership grow by about 2.5 times just last year over the previous year. It's been a fantastic growth across the board overall, Chris.
That's pretty astonishing. And by the way, I think that was probably Kedar Mohite's report from Omdia that you cited. So shout out to Kedar. Hey, Kedar. Absolutely. So live linear content, let's talk about live linear content a little bit. That's still a very large portion of viewers' time and attention. But what I'm calling kind of the super bundling and FAST, which is now in play. Does that, from a value perspective, provide more binge-worthy, kind of value? Philippe, what are you seeing on that side?
So, I mean, we don't really do live
right.
broadcasting for sure. And I think for certain areas of content like sports, obviously, it's going to be the way forever. We just tested actually something, kind of new. We were launching a new show, actually is launching tomorrow, Going From Broke, which is an unscripted show we produced with Ashton Kutcher. And we did season 1, did great. A year and a half ago, we're going to launch season 2, and we said, we wanted to do live, like we wanted to stream the shoot as we were creating the show.
Right.
By next year, we'll be able to do it. This year, what we did was, let's do a close to live. So we were shooting, literally the next day we were posting the scene that we just shot. And we've been doing that with what we call minisodes as we go. And I think, we've got to experiment with this kind of format until we're ready to do live. And there are other ways to do live television than sports. I think, we can create, I'm sure that Damian's show, what he's shooting right now could potentially be, a live
I
show.
would want to see it. I'd want to see that backstage stuff. That's fantastic.
Do you guys want to, I'll try to run over that.
Yeah. All right. But Philippe, that's a very, and I guess, you answered my question. I think, Srini, with respect to what you're seeing, what does your crystal ball say about live linear content with FAST?
That's certainly the biggest draw across all of the FAST platforms today. Almost 50% of our ad impressions and viewership comes from live linear, right? Whether it's live news, live sports, live events, and live programming in general, right? So it's a huge draw for sure, because it provides that sense of now. There you go, right? Fantastic live streaming right there.
Here we go. This is
there you go. This is
here's your mini-sode
right here.
Right, this is your Revry mini-sode. If this were on Crackle. And maybe we're going to have a Crackle deal with Revry. Who knows? But this is exactly it. I mean, I've seen an old client of ours from Sweden, Bambuser, which was previously a mobile video platform, now is a mobile shopping platform, and Facebook just announced a deal for that kind of live shopping thing. So this is a question I'm going to throw to you, Chris Yates. I over the years at various times I've been a guest lecturer for various professors in NYU's film and television program. And I always say, to these students, I say, one thing you should really get into is theater, because you can stream that, you can do a lot of things, because your competition today is a 16-year-old doing cat videos on YouTube. So Chris Yates, here's the ultimate question. How do you see yourself competing or not competing with YouTube?
To some extent, everyone's competing with YouTube, right? Because you're competing not just for the videos. To your point, some might be cat videos, some might be longer form, but the reality is you're competing at a certain point for people's leisure and entertainment time. I mean, if you look at the data that Nielsen will say that people are still watching 35 hours of quote unquote television a week. They're not necessarily watching it on your traditional MVPD networks like they used to.
Right.
But at the end of the day, when someone sits down there and they have, frankly, a massive amount of choice, you've got to find your own way to differentiate, or find your own piece of that, of those occasions. We think about it often as occasions. So, at Redbox, Friday, Saturday, Sunday night is often like movie night. So we think about how do we drive someone in that situation, or a customer, to think about us in that consideration set for what's movie night with the family. Having said that, we do have some shorter form content on our platform, on our free live TV channel service. It's one of those things that is much more YouTube oriented. I think YouTube they have a phenomenal market share there in that space. We're not necessarily competing with them for that. We generally, frankly, aim more for longer form programming for two reasons. One, it's more in line with our brand and the affinity that our customers have for us. And two, people watch longer. If you're watching, 3-minute or 1-minute videos that are all stitched together, you're actually giving a customer, in many cases, 10 times the chance to decide to move away from your service. And we just see, frankly, longer watch times with television programming and feature films.
Yeah, and I go back to, I'm not to laugh at Nielsen, but of course, for years and years, you'd have broadcast executives screaming because the numbers are down. And of course, what they were just talking about was, and no offense, Nick, but they were just talking about people watching big TVs and not, iPhones. So that world has changed massively. So not to dunk on anyone here, but, the streaming wars of 2019, 2020 have yielded only one major casualty, Quibi, which did live up to its name, quick bites. They lasted a quick period and they did bite. But Roku, speaking of biting, took the bite and bought them. But the question is really, are we bound to see more consolidation? What do we think about that? And Philippe, I'll start with you on that.
Well, I think just one was just announced, right? Warner Media and Discovery. So
that was going to be my next one, but let's go down that rabbit hole right now. Yeah.
So of course, yes, I think the big SVOD platforms, a lot of them are not sustainable because they're just spending too much money, and it's just too hard for them to. I mean, they cannot all own the audience, right? There's going to be a point where you're going to see this subscription growth rate slow down, as I think Disney Plus already experienced. I mean, these are going to start stalling, and then it's as usual in big media company, it's going to be a question of cost cutting and making it rational, and finally generating margin. So I think we're going to, we've seen so rapidly. I mean, this cycle has been so quick, right? 5, 6 new platforms launched in the past year, and we were already in the saturation mode and consolidation almost the same year, as it happens. So I think it's fascinating, and I think at the same time you see this plethora of new fast and AVOD services that are literally exploding, and I think we're still at the early stages on the AVOD side of the business.
I would say we're very much so, but to SVOD, I mean, Chris Yates, what do you think on that consolidation question?
There's going to be a lot more consolidation. Agree 100% with Philippe. I mean, it's hard if you're competing with Netflix, Disney, Hulu, Amazon, HBO Max. All of these guys have north of $10 billion a year in content budgets. It's just really hard to sustain that indefinitely. I think obviously the most likely winners long term are going to be your tech platforms, because frankly, the cash on their balance sheet is such that they can weather that. If and when they choose to enter into those markets or acquire their way in. Having said that, there's going to be more consolidation, definitely at a studio level and a content owner level. There'll be more consolidation at a subscription level. I don't know if there'll be a ton of consolidation at an ad-supported level right now, because there's still so much growth in the market. Like Philippe was saying, you've got, just under maybe 60% of the US still has a cable subscription. And like we were saying, they're still watching TV. But if they cut that cord, they're looking for other options. And for that reason, they might have a subscription service or 2 or 3 or, whatever that number is. But there's still a ton of growth in free ad supported as a complement to those subscription services that underline their broad packages.
Yeah. Chris, if I can jump in here really quickly.
Damian,
yeah. Look, we're seeing the consolidate with AVOD and FAST. It's the publishing world meets the TV world, right? Even the advertisers that we're working with here at Revry, we're stealing those publisher dollars, and the folks that we're talking to on the agency level are learning about OTT and FAST and AVOD. I mean, I even just had a meeting just a week ago responding to an RFP where it's like, typically on this RFP, it would be for just the, digital publishers who have written material in our space. And now at the top of that RFP, it's like a giant light item for CTV, OTT, and FAST. And they're still trying to learn and catch up what that means, because video is at the top of the food chain, right? Banner ads are pennies on the dollar, where I'm dollars on the dollar, right? It's a completely different world. And as they educate, and my job and my sales team job is to educate on the opportunity, right? Then they're starting to walk in and they're starting to enter in a much bigger way, which essentially for us is how we're underwriting all of our content now.
And so that really leads to an interesting sort of conundrum here, because one of the deals that was announced, I think today at the upfronts, was that HBO Max is launching HBO Max with ads for $10 a month. Now, I knew that this was going to happen, you know.
Of course.
I mean, you knew this had to happen.
When is Netflix going to do it, right? You know, the bubble's about to burst. This bubble is about to burst. Like, come on, there's going to be a point where it's undeniable. But it's in our investor deck. It's like, this is the problem with SVOD, right?
I'm going to make a bet that the first ad that runs on Netflix, though, will be like a really stylized David Fincher ad. So
well, they're already doing it. They're testing it in France. They've already been doing it. If you follow the trades and you see Netflix doing it in a smaller territory like France, and Philippe probably knows this better than I do, but it's very interesting because it's like, let's dip the toe in a place where it's not going to disrupt the rest of the consumer base. But at some point, let's face it, like the ad-supported dollar is going like this. And subscription is the majors consolidating and fighting it out tooth and nail, trying to just overspend. Even I just know from a Revry perspective, the cost for us to acquire an AVOD or FAST user is pennies versus an SVOD user, which is dollars. And that's enough for any type of business to understand that that's where the money should be going for marketing.
Yeah, that's and to that point of discovery, I mean, one of the the age-old issues that we have with whether it's AVOD or SVOD is curation and contextualization being critical. Chris Yates, we'll start with you on this. Talk to me about where sort of curation and helping people through the discovery process is. I mean, how much of a game changer can that be now?
It's super important. You know, we actually start in some ways we think about a customer as having, you know, not just a lot of choices outside of Redbox, but even inside of Redbox, right? You could rent a disc at a kiosk, you could rent or buy a movie, you can watch a channel. We have, you know, close to 100 channels. You can watch a movie or TV show free with ads. And so it's a combination of what is the right content for that customer, and in some ways also what's the right means in which they want to consume it. And we don't make that decision for them. We think every customer should make their own decision. We want to help them discover that and combine essentially, you know, the shortest amount of time looking for something to find what you want, combined with something that hopefully they're going to love once they start watching it. So personalization is very important to us. And that extends all the way to our marketing as well. So, you know, you can't send everyone the same email, just like you can't show everyone the same front page. And it's not just important for us now, it'll get more and more important as those libraries grow. And frankly, sorry, one last point, it's a lot of us, and we do too, we talk a lot about the size of our library. Mm-hmm. And it's at a certain point.
How big is your library, Chris?
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, like how big is your car? At a certain point, it doesn't matter. It's
the like, engine, not the car, buddy.
That and the steering. But what's really important is not, do you have, like Spotify has 20 million tracks? Because by the way, someone's only going to listen to less than 10,000 in their life. So it's not about the size of the library so much as how do I find what you want when you want to watch it. And so those tools are things that we spend a lot of time thinking about and working on.
And look, and to add to this point, like a lot of the folks, even with Revry, and this is where the publishing thing, I keep bringing this back. It's those editorial moments. Women's History Month, Pride Month next month, African American History Month, Hispanic History Month. There are so many like most of what we're curating with Revry even, and I'm sure a lot of the operators, right, they're constantly in touch and they have an editorial department. We're pitching moments to get featured that are relevant to what's happening, just like news, right? What's old is new and what's new is old, right? And we're back to that, but it's just it's all video and it's all free ad-supported streaming TV.
Yeah, that's it. Hey, Srini, so let's talk about curation from your side of FAST. What are you seeing in terms of new tools or new requirements or requests from your clients? Talk about how you're involved in sort of contextualization and curation.
So, Chris, I mean, one of the big differentiators of FAST compared to traditional TV is the fact that you have a lot of data, real-time data coming in from consumers, right? You can leverage that to do the right programming. You know what is being watched, what is being, where do people stay back, when do people get out, and what is being watched where, right? So by providing, I mean, that's one of the big attractions from an Amagi perspective, is to be able to provide deep analytics, to be able to, for our customers, our programmers, to figure out, hey, what sort of content should I be curating? What should I be licensing? What should I be producing? And what should I be promoting, right? And I think we are very early from that perspective in terms of where the fast is going. We are starting to now work on, not just, curation of linear channels, but how can we personalize eventually, right? How can we actually bring up the right content for the right consumer at the right time, right? So, and that's going to be, you want to also not have, just a series of same programs coming to everyone. You want to have some serendipity there. You want to have some sort of, playlist capability where third parties can curate, not just the programmer that actually owns the content, right? So how can we bring many of these features, like Spotify-like features, into the whole curation experience to make it, make discovery, much more powerful. I think, if we solve the discovery problem, the viewership will dramatically scale even more than what it is today. Chris, as more content comes to the platform.
And Nick, why don't you give us your take from the Sony side on curation? What things are you seeing or employing to meet that challenge?
Yeah, well, there's only so much space, even on a 100-inch TV. So, curation is curation is still.
How many eyeballs do I have? Yeah.
But seriously, something that's been consistent ever since we started with smart TVs is the behavior of the same consumer, whether they're sitting in front of a TV or using their smartphone, is different. They're quite happy to do a lot of deep navigation and interaction on their smartphone.
Yeah.
But you put the same person in front of a TV, and if your content is more than 2 clicks away, the usage drops off dramatically. So that's really something that identifies the need for good curation. We work with Google and the Android TV platform, and I think that platform has done a lot over the last year or so to make the home screen more relevant and to promote specific pieces of content rather than apps, and introduce things that that match to the consumer's interest. So, I think that's where things are going.
And that's really, and we haven't talked really much at all. We've sort of alluded to, the 800-pound gorilla in the advertising suit, which is Google. That's a very, I think you're absolutely right. Android TV has made huge strides, and I think is probably a much bigger player in where fast goes here. But it's kind of interesting to see, and since you mentioned, of course, Crackle really being one of the first OTT services to appear on the scene. I go way back with them. And Philippe, you're kind of the old man on the block, Crackle is in the OTT block. I mean, I know you haven't been there forever, but it's an interesting journey for you guys because, I mean, once upon a time, a lot of people in the streaming world, OTT world said, hey, they've got all that Sony money, their content can't be that good. And I was like, no, actually, it's really good, So you've managed to, sort of go through a lot of iterations. And, I'm just curious, from your perspective, what you've learned and how you take a brand like that some people only know because of Jerry Seinfeld and move it forward.
Well, I mean, yes, the brand is almost 10 years old and is Pop and Flix as well. So they both have gone through, iterations and they've evolved. I think the biggest change has been the audience evolution over the last few years. As we said earlier, I mean, Crackle used to be targeted at young guys who were on their PlayStation and Xbox, and they were the first streamers actually of movies. And now we reach every age group, men and women, and so the content has evolved. I think the expectations have also increased in terms of the consumer experience, as we mentioned. We're about to relaunch a completely new experience, apps, in the second part of this year. And we're going to keep a very curated programming strategy, which I think is the hallmark of Crackle, but at the same time leveraging metadata and and consumer behavior to also give them a better experience. And we talked at the beginning of these special interests. Well, we all have special interests. So even if we reach every person in the country, we want to deliver them that special experience and give them the content they actually want to watch. So they all exist, they're all out there. And that's why every type of content is very important to a certain group of people. And we need to be able to match these users with that content.
Yeah.
Chris, if I can jump in.
Yeah,
here,
go ahead, Damian.
I do have to address something. It depends on the generation. Gen Z is not using the SVOD services or even cable, right? And they're not using, they've adopted or they watch in certain places. There was a study, I can't remember, that came out yesterday, and it was a chart that shows Gen Z watches here, millennial watches here, Gen X watches here, baby boomer. A lot of it has to do with their socioeconomic background. A lot of it has to do with where they live in the world or what city or DMA that they live in. Are they buying a Vizio at Walmart? Are they buying a Samsung at Best Buy, right? There's a huge, massive difference. Like, for instance,
well, they go to Nick's house to buy Bravia. They just go to Nick's house.
And by the way, I do have a Sony in my bedroom and a Samsung downstairs. And I have a Vizio at the office. I have all of them and an LG. We have to, right? We work in streaming, but I will say that, like, and I'm going to use Samsung as an example with TV Plus, right? When you're looking at the lean back big screen example, that has a very specific consumer base based on the price point of that unit. Whereas now Samsung TV Plus is on all the Android phones. Right. I'm holding up my iPhone, but you know what I mean? They're on all the Android phones. Guess what generation that is? That's the younger generation. And where is the scale in the market? It's actually in the mobile device, not the smart TV. And we know it because we see those numbers. And as long as we're delivering to every screen, that's all that really matters. And then, of course, it's the channel and the content you're curating and what audience or consumer base that speaks to.
Exactly. Well, and of course, since you mentioned, I mean, I have, the iPhone and, as you can see here, Samsung Galaxy. I find that, of course, when you're able to shoot content with your smartphone that's in 4K, it's kind of a no-brainer to even bounce that to a screen. But I think that's that's a very, very interesting situation we find ourselves in. And I'm going to move to a couple of questions because we're going to wrap within a few minutes. So. We have a question from the inimitable Jim Long. Srini, this is for you. Amagi does a great job with ad insertion. So there you go. You're getting some praise. I assume mostly on the server side. Do you see the coming client side, e.g. ATSC 3.0, as being easy to add with server side, or does it get tricky? And I'm going to throw that ATSC 3.0 question to Mr. Nick Colsey as well. So why don't you start, Srini?
Absolutely. No, I think server side works very well with client side, especially from a data perspective, where you can actually use the appropriate insertion at the right time, whether it's overlays on the client side, whether it's actually getting confirmation from the client side and such. Server side and client side insertions can coexist and can easily and seamlessly work with each other. Again, from a tech perspective, it's fairly seamless. It's about how do we actually as an industry, how do we do this right? I mean, that's more of a question than the tech itself.
Right. So and ATSC 3.0, Nick has been waving the banner for that. So Nick, why don't you give us your take on that question from Mr. Long?
Yeah, well, and a great question from Jim, and yeah, I think they certainly coexist. As Jim knows, the client-side technologies in ATSC3 are, they're built into all of the ATSC3 compatible TVs that are out there. 50 plus models from Sony and a bunch from our competitors as well. this year and a few last year too. So, but it is very new. The technology is well established, but the deployments, are still very very new. So, as with any new technology, there's it's going to take a bit of time to see how that shakes out.
Right, and of course, Sinclair, being one of the biggest supporters of ATSC 3.0, which leads me to a question about, whither broadcasters in FAST. We talked a little bit about it, but Nick, why don't we stay with you on this? What do you see in terms of how broadcast station groups are dealing with FAST?
Yeah, well, certainly Sinclair is definitely to be commended in what they've done with STIR and
right.
Taking the unique local content, news, weather, and other content that they have for their broadcast stations around the country, and bringing that into an OTT world. And that's something that theoretically any station group or O&O could do, and certainly we would encourage that. I think there's a lot of displaced people around the country who maybe live in San Diego but wish they could get their New York news broadcasts in an easy way, and these services such as STIR really solve that. And from as far as I know, what Sinclair has done in the back end as well, in terms of offering an OTT streaming service and their streaming and on-demand services within ATSC3 are very much unified. So they've built it with the future in mind, of this sort of coexistence of a broadcast delivered IP stream and traditional OTT delivered IP stream from the same systems.
Yeah, well, that's
Chris,
go ahead.
Sorry, if I may add, we work with a number of station groups, and we think, we do deliver today a number of local news stations to third-party FAST platforms. And 2021 is going to be really big in terms of local news coming onto third-party FAST platforms. I mean, a number of pretty much every major station group is actively working on delivering their local news streams to multiple third-party platforms. I think that's going to be a huge driver of fast growth this year, Chris.
And it's about bloody time. Let's be honest. I mean, please catch up, folks. I mean, given the fact that there are so many iReporters out there and so many sort of viral moments that should be coming from these stations, and there's a lot of ad dollars to be had there. I'm going to head up sort of to final thoughts here. Let's start with you, Philippe. Your sort of summation or final views on what we can see, let's say, in the next 6 to 12 months in the FAST space.
I think we're going to see a constant expansion of that audience. I think, educating the audience and users that they don't have to pay for content, that it's actually available to them at a much better experience than they're used to from their cable days. And I think that education is not done yet. It's not finished. So there's still going to be a migration of audience now from cable, but also from SVOD, and frankly from hybrid models, because I'm not happy when I have to pay for subscription and get ads. And I think that's something that I know they got to try, but I don't think that's the best user value. We do have to bring value to the user also, because right. Watching ads is an investment of time. We're working on a loyalty program, for example, which hopefully will help build that partnership with the viewer and make them come back to us.
Very cool. I'm going to give you've basically got the last word there. So because we're out of time, thank you so much, Philippe Guelton from Crackle Plus, Srini Srinivasan from Amagi, Nick Colsey, Sony Electronics, Damian Pelliccione from Revry, on set, by the way, and Chris Yates from Redbox. I'm Chris Pfaff from Chris Pfaff Tech Media. Thank you to Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, Steve Nathan, Sheila Williston, the whole Stream Media crew. This has been a great discussion. Thank you.
Happy Pride.
Thank you
And
so
thank
much.
you, Chris. And Chris, you're going to be back in a half hour.
Exactly. But I will
So
take
we'll
a
see you then
5-minute
to
break.
talk about
Yeah.
direct-to-consumer services.
Amen to that.
All right. And thanks again to our diamond sponsor, Signiant. And with that, I'll sign off.
When the director calls action.
And action.
When the game is on.
Pick it up. It's good.
Or it's time to save the universe again. Media Shuttle is there. Trusted by more than 25,000 media companies, Media Shuttle delivers, making it easy and secure to send any size file anywhere fast. The journey begins with Media Shuttle portals, customized and branded for any project and designed to be so easy, your end users will love it. All while giving operations teams complete control through a simple yet powerful admin interface. Add users, set permissions, customize file delivery specs, and report on all activity. Blast off with proprietary acceleration technology. Media Shuttle moves your content anywhere in the internet-connected world at hyper speeds. Along the way, your files are protected. Our commitment to enterprise-grade security has made Media Shuttle a preferred tool with Hollywood studios, major sports leagues, broadcasters, and more. With Media Shuttle, your files are never handed over to Signiant. File movement is orchestrated between the end user's workstation and your storage, whether on-prem or in the cloud. Your IT team simply provisions your storage, connecting it to the Media Shuttle cloud service, and Signiant handles the rest. Get started on your Media Shuttle journey today, a journey without limits.